Aries.
And I am Kim.
And we're back. What are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about co-parenting.
Oh, yay.
I know. You're really good at this. Me, not so much. But
you don't have to worry about it no more. Yeah, I'm like, you don't even got to worry about it no more.
No longer a season of mine.
But because we were actually going to talk about something else, and so we've been doing some stuff today, and I was like, this is one of those episodes where we need some wine. So for those who are listening and not watching us, we poured us a glass. So if it gets a little testy during this episode, just know the vino's in the system.
So before we get into that, let's talk about networking.
Oh, yeah.
So
we networked recently.
Correct. Summertime, getting back into, or leading into the fall.
Yeah.
So we went to this event. It was its first inaugural.
Yeah. It was a
Dynamic Women of Color.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I didn't know what to expect. And actually, I think they had an event leading up. Did you go to the one that was leading up to that?
I did not. And I expected lunch.
Listen, Kim. So first of all, this will happen. So this is another networking tip. I have a budget for how much I'm willing to spend on networking in a month.
Yes.
And typically that's about $50 total. So
Same.
I try to go to some free events. I try to go to some
low cost.
$25, $20, somewhere in there. 30 yes. Maybe, depending upon what it is. But this one was up there.
Yes.
It was up there. So I'm like, oh, I know we gonna have lunch because
yeah,
it was actually like $45 when they first, and then I was mad because I waited to the last minute, and it ended up being like $60.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I was sitting there like, I know I'm about to have a steak, and it was
salmon.
Not the case. They did have free drinks.
We had like, oh gosh, what did they have? Bruschetta.
That bruschetta was going hard though.
Right?
We probably ate like 10.
20.
We were like, just leave the tray right here because we were hungry. I went there in mind with like, oh, they're going to have food. So
she told me that they would have food.
It said you have assigned tables. Where I'm from, that means there's going to be a plate in front of me.
Meal.
At that point. It was some small hors d'oeuvres. They had some like pot stickers and stuff. Kim was not...
Because I did not eat because it was with the intention. So
she was hangry.
That was a tip. Put some crackers in your purse.
I usually always I had snacks.
Wait,
I had a couple snacks in my purse.
Did you have snacks or did they have snacks in that bag?
No, so
those were your snacks?
They had. This is what happened.
Okay.
I had some snacks in my bag. Remember, I had those Weight Watcher chips from not chips.
The bar.
The bar from the WW event that I did.
WW.
That's what they're called now.
Yeah.
So, I had a couple of those. I usually always have something in my purse just because I get hangry.
And I'm a mom.
So, I'm like, ooh, I found some snacks in my purse, right? So, we in there like some people who don't have nothing.
Right.
And the ladies who were sitting at the table next to us, they also were hungry too. And so, they had bags around like that you can take with you with stuff in it. But some of them had a bunch of stuff in it and some had... It was like the skimpy bags that was left over. So where we were sitting, it was like some skimpy bags there. And I'm looking like, other people said it was chips up in here. Where is that at? I don't see nothing. So I'm looking. It was an extra bag on a table, on a seat next to mine. And nobody was sitting there. So I was like, I'm going to swap this bag with my bag. I looked, and there was some pretzels in there, some Doritos, and some Cheetos. So being the giving person that I am.
Because you're such a giver.
The two ladies that were at my table, I gave them the...
She rationed out the snacks.
I rationed it out. I gave them the pretzels and the Doritos. And me and Kim split the Cheetos. See? I'm like, you got that.
She just put me on portion control.
Look, I did. And then...
That's okay, because I don't like pretzels or Doritos.
I know. You were looking picky. I was like, let me get her the Cheetos. She was looking like,
And you know your friends know you.
I was like, let me give these to them. So then they had a break where they were like, we had some, I was like, I saw some food somewhere over there, Kim. Like, I know it's something. And they had these like pot stickers. All the little hors d'oeuvre things were actually good.
Stuffed crab, mushrooms.
Oh, stuffed mushrooms. Yeah, I don't like mushrooms like that.
I didn't either. I just took the crab out.
And then they had like some beef something. But anyway, so they were having a little bit of something to kind of get you through the next little bit. But that was a little hard. I couldn't sit for the whole time. And we left there and went to P.F. Chang's.
Yes. Yes.
And ate some happy hour. So aside from the food, it was awesome.
It was great.
There were some dynamic women of color. They were talking about a lot of stuff that actually were right along with all our, some of our episodes that we talk about, some of the things that we care about, our event that we're going to be having September 20th, and interesting stats and things that were pointed out.
Very interesting.
Really good. We got to reconnect with some women that we haven't seen in a little while. And so that's always good. I like to use networking events to reconnect with people. Because you don't get to have lunch with everybody.
And you never know who you're going to run to. In fact, I was in the mall yesterday. I stopped by the mall real quick. And a lady, I was in the shoe store. And she walked up. She's like, I saw you last Friday. I was like, last Friday? Where was I? And so she was like, at that event. And we used to work together a long time ago. And we reconnected.
See?
And I was like, I didn't even see you. She's like, yeah, I saw you walking past. I was trying to get your attention.
It was a lot of people in there.
It was a lot of people.
So, yeah, I probably saw about 7 or 8 people that I know.
Yep.
So that was good because I'm like, okay, we don't have to do much.
It was hosted, and I think it was sponsored by Toyota.
It was local profile. I think we kind of talked about that before, but yeah, so it was good. Anyway.
All right. So, well, I would say this. One of the things that I want to say I really took away from there was that strong women help other women become even stronger.
I agree.
And the best quote I heard was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So someone gave that African proverb. I was like, that is really awesome.
Very good.
All right, so let's get into our episode of co-parenting. Again, Aries is a SME in this. I am not. And so...
SME, subject matter expert.
Yes. And so the previous episode, we talked about being a black mama. We're both single moms right now. And I would say we don't like to use necessarily single mom because you are co-parenting and it is working. And I've seen it. And
I'm single and I'm a mom.
Well, that
Just
is
put
true.
that out there.
Right.
Just in case.
I'm single and I'm a mom sometimes. But my daughter's older, so I don't have to parent as I used to.
Yeah.
It's more consultative.
There you go. And that's a great place.
Ooh, it's a great feeling.
Because the boys have an older sister. She is actually the same age as Kiara.
Yep.
Her birthday is the 22nd of December. December 22nd.
Yep. And Kiara's is Christmas Eve.
Exactly. So I get to be consultative with her. I get to live that.
And parenting boys and girls are different too.
Definitely.
Totally different.
Definitely.
So I'm just trying to keep mine off of a pole.
Ooh, Lord. I think you've done a good job. I think she'll be off. I don't think she's have any plans to jump on one anytime soon. If you want to be a Missy Copeland dancer, that's different.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's get into this. Co-parenting. How long have you been co-parenting?
I have been co-parenting for 6 years.
Wow. So how old were your boys?
They were just turned 2 and 4. So they were very young.
Very.
Which added to the stress of the situation for the breakup and everything. So, you're dealing with a relationship that failed. Mm-hmm. And then you have children that are going to be affected by that. So I had to really dig deep and think about what I wanted my end result to be in the situation. And the decision to actually break up was one that was super huge anyways, because I'm like, they're little.
Right.
Some people would just stay together for the kids and all that. And I was like, ooh, that's a long time to be staying together.
Were these older?
Huh?
Were these older couples? There were
people who stay together for the kids. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of people that actually do that. I've heard people be like, well, we stay together. As soon as the kids graduate, then all of a sudden they get a divorce, which I think is not, I think it's better if you're going to do it when they're young because they're not used to it. By the time you're 18, 19, now they're way more traumatized. This is just from my experience with friends who had their parents divorced when they were older. It was you feel like your whole childhood was a fraud. Did y'all even love each other? And then it's you kind of take it personal, the breakup a little bit different, where it's oh, you left the family, it's just a whole different vibe.
Sometimes just staying in that unhealthy environment is not conducive for raising a healthy child. For sure. So you could, and I think my daughter struggled with that because I was brought up in a 2-parent household. My mom and dad, and she was part of that household at one point. So she was used to 2 parents always being there, and you think, oh, a 2-parent household, I'm going to be an excellent kid. If my parents break up, I'm not going to be that great kid because I'm coming from a single mom household, which is not always true.
And there's a stigma,
it is,
with the single mom thing. And I'll say this, like, when you're dealing with a breakup, that's separate to me, like, from the kids' relationship. So I was very serious about, like, separating the two, which, when you're in a breakup, you can have somebody who's more bitter than the other, or both could be bitter, right?
Right.
And one may try to use that, like, to kind of pay you back for the relationship breaking up and all that stuff. So it happens with both. It happens with the guy. It can happen with the girl. It can happen either way. So it's not one person or the other. But I grew up in a co-parenting situation. My parents were not together. By the time I could remember them, they were already broken up. So I used to go to my dad's house on the weekends. I used to go to, be at my mom's. Like, I was doing the whole thing from as early as I could remember. Only reason I know they were together because I see pictures of us when we were, living in this house, and that's when we were on there, and like, they'll explain it. But so I grew up that way, and it wasn't always good, because they were going through their own little dramas from their breakup too, right? Until they kind of came together and made
a mutual agreement. Yeah,
I think they had a mixture of both, where some days where, maybe my mom is being, challenging, and maybe my dad wasn't doing something, whatever, and they were just kind of going back and forth. But I will say that no matter what, like, my dad always showed up. He was always like, your mama tripping, but I'm about to come pick you up. Like, it don't matter what
between she and I.
You can trip all you want. I'm on my way to get my child. Like, it was never like, I can't come see you because your mama acting crazy, or none of that stuff, or you can't see your daddy. It wasn't none of that, which I appreciate because that actually helped me kind of be more positive about my situation.
So your dad was very mature.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was adamant, and I think that's something that we could possibly miss, because I'll say people that I know who were like, their reason for not being in their kid's life was like their mom was tripping or made it difficult, and it's like, that's your kid, like, in my mind, I'm like, that's one thing as a child I appreciate from my dad is like, thank you for the times when maybe she was more challenging and you fought through that, or vice versa, they both could have been challenging with each other, but that's something that a child will appreciate, when it's all said and done, that, oh, wow, like, you thought of me more than the situation. So that's
no matter what the situation is, you continue to persevere through it, right?
Right. And it takes some soul searching.
Wow. Well, so again, this is another scenario of how we're very different, our experiences. So I told Aries, I said, everyone needs to listen to Aries. Aries, this is what you do.
Wait, hold on. Pause before we even go that far. Before we even go there, these are my personal experiences. I am not an expert, but these things have worked for me and my ex and his personality too.
Right.
It has a lot to do with that as well, because there are people who I have talked to work on some things, and it is a little bit more effort that they have to put in because their ex may not be the same. So let's just put that out there real quick.
That's a great caveat.
These feelings are expressed are my opinion only.
Right. In your experience.
In my experience.
And you made a great point. So 2 people have to be willing to work together.
Yes.
And there may be a time, or there may be a moment when that one person has to compromise and, say, you know what? I'm going to put my feelings aside or whatever, and I'm going to be the bigger person in the situation. Mm-hmm. So I tried to co-parent. We tried. I think we were immature, even though we were older, but we had been together for so long. I don't know that we knew how to effectively co-parent. And I know I didn't have experience or had never seen it.
Right. So, and that's the other thing. You're growing as a person just about how you deal with things, period.
Correct.
going through a breakup is very emotional. It's so much. And then if you have young kids, like I'll say LJ, he had major separation anxiety when his dad left the house. It was like the most traumatic situation ever. Every time he would come pick him up and he would leave me, he would be like screaming bloody murder. Like, you know, and then when he would drop him off, then he wants his dad. Like, he was like he's never going to come back. And I'm like, you know your dad's going to come back. Right. But this wasn't his normal routine. He wasn't used to this, you know, why is he not here type of situation. Marvin, unfazed. Because he was so young, I think he didn't
realize what was going on.
Trip. So he'll just be like, bye. Okay, go on with daddy. And then, okay, I'm here. Like, it was no issue. But LJ would just be like, going crazy. He was
older.
And that was hard for me as a mom because there were moments I'm like, should I just suck it up for the kids? Like, am I being selfish? Like, I'm going through all these things. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not being selfish because if I had, you know, when he was here, we were not doing well. And it wasn't a good example in front of the kids. So I felt like it's better for us to be apart than together. So.
Okay. So our co-parenting started off with, we actually went to court to get visitations. And at first I was a little hesitant because I'm like, I'm used to my daughter always being with me. I personally didn't want that.
Yeah, you're like, no visitation.
Right. But I don't want to go to jail. I like stripes, but not,
Why did you feel like you didn't want him to have visitation at all?
So, it wasn't that I didn't want him to have I didn't trust him.
Okay.
I didn't trust. It was some things that I didn't trust. I'm like, no one's going to care for her like I do. She always was in activities. Will he get her to the activities that she needed to be? You didn't do it while we were together. So what will make this different? And then I was also concerned about the environment that she would be in because I was really unclear of that.
Yeah, that's
important.
So
we had some challenges in that arena, but if a court order is in place, I'm going to follow the law.
Right.
I don't like handcuffs. I like bracelets. I don't like handcuffs.
Yeah.
But he didn't come.
So he was saying that he had certain times that he was supposed to come and then he wouldn't show up.
He did not show up.
And see.
And so I could have been the bitter mother, you know, calling. I didn't call. I just said, you know what? I think I was reading something or I read something. I was listening to something. It said it's a blessing that you are able to care for that child. So do the best you can at that time. So I was like, you know what? I can't be bitter about it. Suck it up. Do the best. Because at that point, I was like, okay, she's older. It'll be okay. I can use this time for my alone time, right? Or to go out. And so part of me thinks he might have been trying to penalize me from going out. Because you know I'm a social butterfly.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not the type that would leave my daughter with anyone or just drop her off. So I just decided to be creative and make sure we spend time together. I utilize that time constructively.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. You know, when you're breaking up, you got so many pieces to it. It's like, so one of my strategies was, in the beginning, I kind of had settled within myself that I was going to just be the martyr in this situation. So if it caused, now I'm already not with you for the kids. Like, I'm not going to stay with you to, you know, for the kids' sake. But what I will do is I'll take the beating. But we're not living in the same house. Right. So I'll take it from afar. So it was like, you know, in the beginning, you know, I told you, like, I pre-breakup, you know, so I was already over it.
Most people do, I think, pre-breakup.
Yeah, like, I was over the relationship part already, like, at the point where he's not here no more. But he was fresh. So he had to go through the motions of that part, right? I was patient with that situation. I'm like, okay, you know, you're being that way right now. So that's fine. So he would kind of come a certain way that wasn't cool. And I just started monitoring how, like, I wanted him to treat me. I'm still setting boundaries, but I'll be like, let's say there's a text message and it was ugly. I just won't respond. And then if you respond with something respectful, then I'm like, okay. I only respond when they were like
positive,
regular,
respectable.
Like, yeah. And if it got off track, I would get off. Like, I would stop or I would get off the phone. Like, whenever I felt like we're mixing this up, you know, we're talking about the kids right now, then I get off. And it started creating, like, a
Well, you really set the stage of boundaries.
Yeah.
And how your expectations on as far as communication and treatment.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like I said, I never like bash him because if it was me and I was the one with the fresh, you know, because in the beginning we both was being like, no, like not having it because it wasn't pretty, you know, in the beginning it was kind of ugly, families involved, you know, all that stuff, and so I just like, you know what, I'm just gonna suck it up, and when they get older, they'll just know that I, you know, was like the mom that took it all for them, you know, or whatever, right? So I kind of just had settled with that. And I'll say it took about 6 months of just being my pride. That was the hardest part because I am a clapbacker. Like, I got words for days. Like, there's nothing you're going to come at me with that I can't come back on you with, and harder. Like, that's real talk. That's really my personality. So, for me to not respond to something, that I had a pain that was in my side, like, for real. I'm like, Paul, there's a thorn in my flesh that was like, Lord, ooh, because all the comebacks were in my head. Like, I'm like, ooh, I could be like, boom.
I was gonna say that took a lot of self-control because I didn't have that self-control.
It hurt physically to stop myself because I'm like, ooh, like a whole laundry list of comebacks was like in my head, and I was like, no, you're just gonna be quiet and you're not gonna respond because you know if you respond, like, it don't matter, you know. And there were days when I had ups and downs. It wasn't a perfect, like, oh, I just, all of a sudden, I fixed it. No, it was some ups and downs. There were some days where he might have said something, I'd be like, you know what? Okay, so and I'd be like, see, why you let him do that? But that was a part of my growth myself.
Okay, I was going to say, as well. How did you come to the realization to say, okay, I'm not going to respond?
Because I know that when you argue with someone, matching their energy is not going to help the situation. You have to, when you try it one day when somebody coming at you crazy or being loud, and you're like, okay, so why are we doing this? What's going on? Like, you know, like when you speak a certain tone, they're going to be like, why am I yelling right now? Like, I look foolish because I'm yelling at you, or I look crazy. And I think what happened was one day he had the awakening, and like I said, it took about 6 months of me being, when I finally got it down, like being hardcore, where I noticed that his stuff started changing too. Like how he would come at me was changing as well, because I think he came to the realization, like, why am I being meaner? Like, literally, if he thought back on the patterns, like, she's been super nice to me. She's been accommodating. She's been, you know, if he needed me to keep the kids a certain day, I'll keep them. You know, like, I was just, whatever he wanted, kind of.
You were civil.
Yeah, I was just trying to be, like, I'm serious. I know that this is not how the old Aries usually works.
Okay. Because
it wasn't a part of my traditional character that I was exhibiting during the relationship. You know, I mentioned a bunch of times in the last episode about how I was talking to him crazy. Like, I had lost respect. I was at the point where I'm like, boy, ain't nobody trying to hear what you're talking about. So, blah, you know, moving on. So, when I started being nice, he like, that ain't even, you're not being nice for real. So, it took some time to build the trust with him that I'm really, for real, trying to be cool with you.
Okay.
So, you know, that takes time too.
Wow. Yeah, you are amazing. I mean, I've witnessed Aries in action. One thing that I can say that you are is you are very inclusive. So I know the boys are in various activities, even at school when they have accolades. You are very good about communicating and being inclusive to make sure he's aware and that he's included and that, hey, he's there.
Yeah, that took practice as well, because I used to do everything. You know, like you said, when we were together, I did not trust him to, like, have the kids by himself. Wow. Or nothing. Like, I made all the decisions. I'm like, this is what we're doing. So I'm talking about a whole 180 of my work that I had to do. It created something in him, you know, where I'd be like, hey, so let's say I went and researched a whole program, soccer or something that I want the boys to get in.
Yes.
I've already done the research. I know that I want to sign them up for this. Or I'll be like, hey, I saw this program. It looks pretty good. Can you look at it and tell me what you think? Yep. And then 9 times out of 10, he's like, oh, that look cool. Okay, fine. You know, he probably didn't even tripping off of it, but just giving him that option, because I know that was one of the things that was important to him, was feeling like he had a voice.
Yep.
And I never really allowed him that space to have a voice before. So I was like, well, what do you think about this? You know, inside, in the beginning, I'm like, I don't really care what you think. I'm just doing this. But I had to do the habit to really be that way. Now, I told you, I'm like, once somebody takes the reins, I don't know what's going on no more. He tells me, like, oh, we signed up for baseball and we doing this now. And I'll be like, okay, go.
Awesome.
I'll be at the games, not practices.
Well, and similar to you, I was making all the decisions as well. So I had trained myself really like, okay, this is what it is, right? And this is the final decision. So I didn't do what Aries did. I did not give any options to.
You were younger too.
Yeah, I was.
Like, how old were you when y'all broke up?
30, maybe.
That's still, cause see, you're not
30.
You don't know who you are still.
You really don't.
I'm sorry.
You really don't. And like you're like tit for tat, and you know I was civil. Like there was no physical or I would say emotional abuse, but I was like I'm not gonna be cooperative. I'm not compromising.
So
I'm gonna do whatever
She was not being civil. That's basically what you're saying. Ignore everything she just said.
Okay, right. So I was like, I wasn't that I was not going to be cooperative, but it was like, it's Kim's way. Kim made the decision. This is what we're going for.
It's so easy to do.
It is.
And that's why it was painful in my side.
Right. And I was like, she's always with me, so I'm going to make the decision.
You ain't coming anyway, so that's what you really was like, man, please. Like, I'm not compromising, adjusting those schedules and all that. No, I feel you. Yeah. Like, that's a real
I had to
feeling.
work with my schedule and what Kim had going on. Not to say that that was right, but I did what was in the best interest of Kim and Kiara.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hard part, and that's why I always tell people, I have people all the time that'll ask me about the co-parenting thing. They'll take me to lunch or take me somewhere and be like, here's the situation. What do you suggest? I even actively will go out. Like, if there's people that I care about that I see that they're not doing well, you know, I'm like, we need to talk because I'm always thinking about the kids.
Right.
And that's the part, it breaks my heart, like, to see
the kids suffer.
Parents being so bitter that they can't even see their kids anymore. It's like, you have prioritized this relationship and you need to get the heck over it at this point because your kids are suffering. They're watching how you treat each other. Those kids always play parents against each other. Whether they're the best kids on earth or not, they're going to feed off of that. So one thing I did early on was say, me and Daddy are on a team, and you and Marvin are on a team. To LJ and Marvin, like that was their thing. Y'all are teammates. Me and Daddy, we wasn't even cool. Me and him weren't even all the way cool. But what I would do is I'll call him on speaker and be like, "This was happened." So I told them that we're on the same team. So I'm like,
I like that.
I'm talking to you at the same time, to where he can hear me saying that as well. And he was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" You know, then he'll kind of get in there. But it's like, no, for real, you know, like, and they'll really be like calling, no, Daddy on my side. What you want to call him for? Right. We on the same team, you know.
That's important.
So y'all not, I don't care if he not here or not, you know.
So you all were always on the same page for the most part. Or at least you exhibited that, right? You let them know we're on the same page. We're not separate.
They didn't know
because you can't play both parts.
They did not know the drama. They still don't know the drama that ever took place. Because that's not their place. Right. They are kids. They're going to always be looking at their family, their dad, their, you know, that whole side as whatever they see them as right now, you know, in their life, their experience with them. It's not based on whether do mama getting along with grandmama and all these people. Yeah, like, no, that's not important.
Right.
That's not important. For them, that's their family. So.
And speaking of that, I mean, like for me, I have a unique relationship. So I still keep in contact with the family. And his little cousins, they still come over to the house and I will go pick them up. I did not sever that relationship because we weren't together.
You don't have to.
So I was civil too, and I think it takes civility if you continue to keep that relationship with the family, because a lot of times people will say, okay, well, we're not together anymore.
Cut everybody off.
Cut everybody off.
I mean, it depends on who it is.
And it depends on the situation.
Because I definitely, the first situation, I did not have kids. So there was no need. It was way easy to cut everybody off.
And but those were my daughter's cousins. Those are her family, and I want her to have that connection to her father's side. So I made sure of that.
Same thing, like I said, they have a sister. She's 10 years older than LJ. So I've been with her since she was 5. Wow. You know, so she's about to be 20 this year. Wow. And so when we broke up, it was devastating for her, you know, as well. And there's been some rough patches as far as like their family side of feeling like me and her should still be cool, you know, because of our stuff. And I'm like, hey, I've been with this girl, you know, and so she, and these are my boy's sisters. So I don't know I have no thing, you know, connection with his relationship with his daughter. If he's putting them all together, making sure they're spending time, I don't know none of that. But the fact that me and her mom are cool and me and her are cool,
speaks volumes.
Then I wanted to make sure that they had time with their sister still and, you know, stuff like that. So I mean, you know, family stuff is always going to be some like ups and downs. Some days are going to be better than others. Some years are going to be better than others. But the bottom line is really you only can control yourself.
Correct.
I think one of the funny things that I did when we first broke up, and knowing that he can't cook, I was like, what are my kids going to be eating while they're over there? You know, I would cook a whole meal, like multiple things, and send it with them.
That was
so that
very
they have
kind of you.
It included him too, like you can eat, you know, like the whole nine. Because I'm like, I want to at least make sure they're not just at McDonald's every day and all that. But then after a while, I kind of was like, you know what? That's their time with him, and however that works out, that's his time. But I asked him to compromise with, can we agree on what type of if you're gonna do fast food, Chick-fil-A, like something that's a little bit more quality.
Yes.
Not McDonald's. So we agree, even though they'll tell me like, me and Daddy went to McDonald's the other day.
Well, that's good. You all got to compromise.
So, I mean, he was willing to sacrifice that for me.
So it sounds like I would say your top 3 tips are 1, communicate.
Communication is everything.
Probably over communicate sometimes as well.
Yeah, and kind of like when you're at work and you're doing your corporate clapbacks, you have to fluff it more when you're dealing with someone that you're not in a good relationship with. So you have to pad those text messages. Many a days when I had to text him, I would delete because I'm like, that don't sound good.
Right.
Like my first text is never the right one.
Yes.
I'm like, let me delete that. Okay.
So you have to be emotionally intelligent.
You do, because I'm like, okay, good morning, blah blah. It was to the point where we were in the beginning. It was so bad that like if I said good morning, such and such and such and such, he was like, why are you saying good morning? Why are you being all formal or whatever? And I'm like, if I didn't say good morning, you'll be saying why you didn't say good morning. But it was like when you're in the bitter part of the phase, every little thing can be something. So I really try to give a lot of grace. And I think, you know, it comes on both sides at times where I might have said some crazy stuff and he'd be like, okay. So, you know.
Communicate. Sounds like you said grace, which I equate to compromise and also being empathetic.
Yeah.
You cooking dinner.
I know. That was more of a control thing, though. I think in the beginning it was like control of what my kids are eating and all that stuff. Because I was the parent
that included him, though.
I didn't include him. Yeah.
No, you included him.
Yeah, I included him. Because I'm not cold-hearted. I'm a nice person.
Yeah.
I'm a nice person.
I don't know if I would have gone to that extreme.
I'm a nice person. I try to be nice. But
you were very.
Let me see. What would be another one?
You were very inclusive.
Be inclusive. But here's the thing. If you have your pride, got to go out the window. Pride is not existent because it literally will dig you a ditch that you are going to be tortured in like forever with the kids. You know, it's just a whole lot. They're going through a transition, and so you got to think about them first. Real talk.
And that's one of my lessons learned is think about the child. Put your bitterness and however you broke up, you deal with that on your own. Don't bring that into the child and the relationship that they have with the other parent.
Those were separate conversations.
Yes.
We would still talk about stuff and get a little heated, but we were talking about the relationship. When it was time for the kids, that was a whole separate conversation. I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going down the wrong path. Let's get off the phone now.
So redirect the conversation.
Yeah. No, be able to feel out like, okay, you know what? Is this helping? It's not getting us nowhere. Let's just stop because we're about to start, you know.
Right. Like, what's the goal of the conversation?
Exactly.
Okay.
And like now, we're like a well-oiled machine, I think.
We really are.
Because it's like we've done it 6 years at this point. Well, what we haven't done yet is like include another person. Like I haven't had a serious relationship where I'm like introducing the kids and
I was gonna
introducing him to this guy and all that. Like I haven't had that. He has not introduced me to anybody. I don't know, but I know he dates because the kids tell me that. But
and so on my end, both of her parents were dating.
Both of
her dad was dating someone and I was dating someone.
Oh, you both
so that was hard for her to see us together, and now we're with different people.
Was it soon after the breakup, or was it? How long was it after?
For him, it was sooner than I was.
Okay.
So I was very considerate of that because I was like, she's a little fragile and sensitive.
And she was kind of acting out a little bit during that time.
Oh, she did not. Yeah. She was used to it just being us. And I probably should have dated quicker, sooner.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
And maybe the communication part.
Right.
Where you two could have communicated a little bit better.
Correct.
I know that when my mom went, I wanted it to be her, my sister, and me. And then, like, she immediately, went into a new relationship. And I'm like, why ain't just us?
Memo?
Right. Include me in this decision-making process.
Right.
And that's just my thinking as, a child at that time. So I talk to my boys now about dating and what would y'all do if somebody liked me and, stuff like that. Marvin is very supportive. He's like, because I was telling him about somebody that liked me. I didn't say no names or whatever, but he was like, do you like him? And I was like, yeah, I kind of like him, And he was like, well, if you like him, then does he treat you nice? I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, I just really want to fill them out, you know what I mean?
And that's great. That's actually a healthy way to have a conversation, to not necessarily to warn them, but to think, hey, I'm including you in this decision that I might be dating.
Right.
How do you feel about it?
And now they're getting older. They're 10 and 8. So, I mean, and LJ, he was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like that or not. I'm like, but Daddy goes on dates and stuff. Like, why?
Yeah, but it's different with my other.
That's not his girlfriend. They're just friends. I'm like, he just telling y'all that. But I was able to address concerns that LJ expressed before we were really in this situation where he was kind of feeling like, well, what is that going to look like? He had questions. And I'm like, oh, well, no. I mean, if I'm dating somebody, it's going to be somebody that is going to love y'all too, and it's going to be cool. He going to be cool. It ain't going to be no weirdo,
So you really set the stage.
Yeah. So I'm like, just in case,
That's a good tip.
So
talk to your kids about it before you start dating.
Yeah. And like when you're watching TV and stuff comes up about stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah, that would be cool, or whatever. Like I just put scenarios out there to see how they feel, because they want to feel like a part of it too.
So it's been 6 years. They have never seen you with anyone.
No, but what I'm good at though is, I have a lot of friends and a lot of male friends. So they've been around guys, but they know like, oh, that's just Mom's friend. Like
they haven't seen Mom hug or be affectionate.
They have never seen me kiss, hug, do none of that. It's usually like guys from the village or, friends that just were in a larger group or something.
Platonic friends.
So they'll know, oh, Mr. Will and, so-and-so that are like my real friends. But
so that's going to be very interesting.
I know.
I'm going to get my popcorn.
Girl, I'm going to have some too because I don't know.
And boys are different, overprotective of their moms. And not to say that she wasn't over me, but it was more of I want you to
You're
myself.
My woman.
Yes. I want your time. Yeah. I'm not sharing you.
Yeah. Which is why I'm so glad my kids go with their dad every weekend.
Exactly. And that's
so I can date if I want to. Exactly. They don't even know.
They don't have to know. And so that was my challenge. Like I was dealing with, I didn't have anywhere really to send her. She didn't go with her dad during the weekends. So it was like I had to be creative.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, for 5 years. So I had to be creative.
Look, I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, And I said that early on when I became, kind of a single woman and a mom at the same time. I was like, I really commend my friends that don't have someone that's active. Like the dad is not coming all the time and all that. Like, I'll be ready for them kids to be out of here.
So if he didn't come, would you call him?
Oh, no, I made it like very...
No, I'm saying, but if you were in that scenario, say you were in that scenario and he did not come, would you call?
Yes.
Okay.
Get your butt over here and come get these kids. You're not about to leave me with these kids. I'm like the lady on What's Love Got to Do with It? Remember she dropped the kids off at the house?
Yes.
Oh, you want to be a daddy? Oh, here you go. I'll drop their butts off. Oh no, you gonna take care of these kids. You not.
Okay, so maybe I should have done that.
You should have.
Yeah,
drop
I was
them
like,
off.
well, I didn't have an
you
address.
were thinking about.
I didn't have an address. So
see, nah, we're not doing that. I need addresses.
But that's okay. I didn't need it.
Well, you're good now. Like we know that it all worked out in the end. But I need to know because I'm dropping them off. Somebody house, your mama house. Somebody come and get them. Because sanity-wise, I need a break.
You need that. I think parents need that.
Yeah, I need a break.
They need both parents. So
regardless of how I feel about you, you're still their dad, and they need their dad. That's their dad. That's their DNA. I don't care whether I like how you do things or not. Not my business. But obviously, you're gonna try to protect your children as much as you can, and compromise and work through things. But you're gonna get more being as sweet as possible than trying to like match negative energy. That's the hardest part right there.
I absolutely agree. And it just goes back to what you said ultimately. The most important thing you can control is you.
Yep.
And you have to put aside any bitterness or personal differences that you have with that person so that you can move forward. Because you can't move forward just reflecting on it.
And this is not a quick fix.
It's not.
This is something that may take some years to perfect. It may not get perfect, but it will take some time based on you and the person's communication, who they are, how they are, and all that stuff, which is another message for people who do not have kids. Be careful who you're having babies with.
Know who you're having
because
children with.
You're going to have to deal with them. Like, yep. I literally, not to bash my first husband, but I knew I did not want to be connected to him for the rest of my life. So I did not have kids with him for that reason.
And again, how I now date is if I wouldn't want my daughter to date him, I don't date him, right? And so if you know that you wouldn't want that person to be a father for your child, don't even do it.
All those traits you hate about him, they're going to be right there in your baby's DNA. You're going to be like, oh my God, like you're acting just like him. That's you're looking like your daddy.
Oh gosh.
Looking at him with disgust.
You do.
You look just, and they come out looking just like them.
Just like them.
You like. Luckily for me, my kids look like me.
Or your dad.
And my dad.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jesus. But
Well, again, I commend you. You all do a wonderful job. So shout out to him as well, because it takes two to have such a great co-parenting. And I'm like, you need to teach a class on that.
I think that's something I want to write, like a little ebook or something.
You should.
For moms, for dads as well. Like, I'm a person who, I give advice to everybody. I got male friends who will hit me up about some co-parenting stuff. And I'm like, no, you cannot do that. You got to be the one. So it's not about, the mom is being the bigger person, the dad. Both can do it. Whoever I'm talking to at the moment is who I'm telling to be the bigger parent. I don't care.
Somebody has to be bigger.
And if I know both parents, I've had the scenario where I've gone to both.
I remember.
And some people are ready and some are not. Some are ready to make those sacrifices of their own pride and their own whatever hang-ups they have. And then some just be like, I don't care, I'm going to do it my way. And I don't, they just want to make the other person suffer. And that's just not a good look. Right. And your kids, they'll see. And it's unfortunate, but the kids are going to be the ones that suffer through that. And I didn't want that.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's really just about the kids. So just thinking, I think sometimes we only think short-term, long-term. How will that impact them?
That's all I was thinking about. That's all I could think about. Because I'm like, I don't want them looking at me like I was the bad guy, later. But I saw the future, of kind of like, if we do this right, because he already automatically had a negative view of like us not being together raising the kids from the jump. Because his parents are together too. He's coming from a two-parent home. He's looking at me like, you used to having a broken home. He would say that all the time. He's like, a broken home. He'd be like, our kids come from a broken home. They just gonna have to deal with that. And I'm like, first of all, their home is not broken.
Right.
Like, don't come.
There are some broken two-parent homes.
Yeah, I'm like, their home is not broken. They have two parents. They love them. They're gonna be just fine. Like, I literally had to convince him that they were gonna be fine. Because I'm like, that's just, if we do this right, they will be fine. You know what I mean?
And I found myself sometimes overcompensating for where there was lack. And I would definitely say don't try and overcompensate. And at a point I have to say I can only be a mother. I can't be the mom and the dad.
Don't parent out of guilt.
Yes, you can't.
Because these kids, I'm telling you,
they
will use that
and manipulate and
manipulate your butt, and you'll be walking around like a puppet the whole time. Because you'll have parents who, like, let's say it's their weekend with the kids, and I think dads do this a lot, where when it's their weekend, they don't want to parent the kids almost. It's like they don't want to discipline them because they're like, well, they're only here on the weekend. I don't want to be telling her this. And it's like, no, check her butt right now, you know, because she's going to use that, you know, or he will use that later.
Discipline is love. Love is discipline.
Yeah. And you'll notice, like, within yourself, I know for me, where the pride, when I told you that pain was in my side, from when it transitioned to, I'm like, you got the smartest daddy in the whole wide world, and I would buy him Father's Day gifts and birthday gifts and stuff that were from them, and in front of him, you know, let him know, like, yay daddy, you got the best daddy, because that's your daddy. I want you to feel that way about your dad. I could feel however I want about him, but I literally became one that was like, I'm here to be your cheerleader too, you know, it ain't about us no more.
And he reciprocates that.
And he's the same way. Every Valentine's Day, I know I'm getting some flowers or something. A flower, something. He makes my, you know, takes my boys to go get me something, card, something for Mother's Day. Not Valentine's Day no more. It used to be in Valentine's Day in the beginning. Not Valentine's Day. Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
So, you know what I mean? He don't have to do that.
He does
be like, whatever. I mean,
that's an added bonus.
It is. So, little things like that can go a long way, and it may take you being the one that needs to extend the olive branch and do some things that you like, Lord, and he might be like, oh, what you doing that for? Or she might be like, oh, you want to be, and you just be like, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you as a mother. And then they'll be like, oh, I feel stupid.
Right. You don't even know how to respond.
Seriously, people don't know. Like, that works.
Kill them with kindness.
Kill them with kindness. It works. So it's really all about you. When it all boils down, you can't do it thinking, okay, in 6 months it's going to be better. You don't know when, but for you anyways,
for your own conscience,
it's going to be better for you, period.
Because you're going to know that you did the best you could, regardless regardless how they respond to it.
No regrets.
Correct.
That's my motto. I have an uncle, he passed away in 95. He was just like the black sheep of the family, kind of. Like, he did his thing. He did whatever. He wasn't in no box. Like, nobody could really, like, he had friends from everywhere, just very outgoing, you know, and we were very close. And he always said, live your life without regrets. Whatever you do it because that's what you want to do. Not because somebody else is trying to convince you. Not because the crowd is doing it.
Right.
You do that and you will not have any regrets in life. And I feel like that was one of the things where I was like, I would feel bad if I didn't do this and I could have made it a better life for my kids. You know what I mean?
With you.
Yeah, so it's like, that's how I live now. I'm just like, hey, if I want to do something, I do it. If I don't. But in this situation, you have to put your kids
first
before your own feelings. So
that's the key.
That's
Take your feelings out of it. Well,
I'm going to be charging for this last letter.
Yes, that was wonderful. I wish I had known you.
I know, I would have definitely tried.
I knew you, but I don't think we shared that. I really didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't talk about it a whole lot.
Because it was really nothing
I knew it was going on, but it was
really nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
But again, it has to be two parents who are willing to do the work.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's all we have time for today. But I hope that helps someone.
Yeah.
Remember, this is my opinion, my personal experience with the person that I am dealing with. So he's a different person than your person. So his response may be different. We also were friends before this, so I think we kind of were able to fall back on some of that during this time. So just try to make sure that you are doing, prioritizing your kids first and not thinking about your own feelings, about the situation. Go get you a therapist if you need to deal with some of that stuff and get through all that and talk through whys and all that. That's fine, but just don't make the kids suffer because, you have your own personal agenda. I just think it's selfish. That's just me, though.
And love is being selfless and sacrificial, so.
Yeah. You might have to take a couple hits.
Oh, yes.
And it don't feel good. I'm just putting it out there. It don't.
But in the end, when you look back, you'll say it was well worth it.
Yeah.
All right.
It is.
Well, Aries, thank you so much for those great tips on what to do.
Thanks for this interview, Kim. It felt like I'm just glad
well,
to be here.
I'm just saying you're great at it. You're great at it. So thankfully I don't have to go through that anymore. But
yeah, you're blessed.
I'm in that season.
I got a few more years left.
That's okay.
I feel like we'll always just be, once the kids
always be connected.
and they have kids and all that, I feel like we're going to be that kind of situation,
So my situation is going to be very interesting. So get your popcorn ready.
I will. I always do. With that said, we're going to end this episode, and we hope that you will go on and rate and review the podcast. If you're on YouTube watching us, then please like and subscribe. And we will talk to you all next week. And wait a minute. This week, what are we doing next week? I forgot. Is the event next week?
No. The event will be
2 weeks.
on the 20th.
Anyway,
so, yeah.
Make sure you go get your tickets. Women of Color Secure Your Seat.eventbrite.com for our September 20th live podcast recording.
With Minda Hearts.
With the Minda Hearts. All right, so we will holler at y'all. And have a bold week. See you later.